Welcome to Conversations from the Edge of Consciousness. I'm your host, Christine Madera. For me, and possibly for you, the inner world of consciousness has always been much more real and way more fun than the so-called real material world. Growing up, I thought I was alone in this, but I'm not. There are a lot of us, and far too many have no one to talk to who shares this experience. I've been lucky to cultivate a community of friends who love to talk about the energies, ideas, and vibrations that are pushing the edges of our own consciousness, as well as our collective consciousness. In Conversations from the Edge, we share our conversations with you. Welcome to Conversations from the Edge. This is your host, Christine Madera, and I am here today with Linda Lang, who... Boy, we just spent about 45 minutes just chatting before we started recording because we always have so much to talk about. So, Linda, I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself, and then we're going to launch into something fun.
Well, it's already been fun, Christine.
Yes, it has.
So, my name is Linda Lang. My business is called thoughtchange.com. I'm an intuitive healer, channel, and well, I guess a spiritual explorer is maybe how I would describe myself today.
Perfect. And I can attest to the quality of Linda's work. And if you have looked at any of our other conversations, the first two were on a spiritual DNA reformatting process that she did with me over like live, not live, but recorded for your listening pleasure. But it was really profound, and it was profound enough that we had to actually do it in two separate chunks and not just one at a time like normally happens. And the last time was a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I guess. And the benefits have continued to roll in. So what we had talked about was really shifting all the patterning to bring in the affirmation, I thrive in harmony with my highest good and my highest purpose. And it really has shown up in my body and in my thoughts and in my energy more and more strongly. That I really like that everything I do is about thriving, that all of my thriving does line up with my highest good, and that my purpose and my thriving are coming together as one. And the shift in my body is really profound, and it has triggered a whole bunch of other realizations and awarenesses and life shifts and things that have just kind of cascaded this into something that's been super powerful. So I just wanted to update people on that a little bit. And you, Linda, you'd had a little bit of an insight into this DNA work that you might want to share a little bit before we hop into our other topic.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm a spiritual explorer too. I had a chat with, well, maybe I would say it is, I actually gifted myself with a psychic reading for my birthday. And in that, our conversation moved to this DNA transformation, and I received some information about it, and that it works on the spiritual DNA, which is the DNA or the information that we carry lifetime to lifetime, so that through this process, we're actually clearing past life, we're repatterning for future lives, we're clearing out of the Akashic records. There's potential for some really profound change. It's not specifically if you have a chromosome out in your physical DNA, let's say. It has more to do with how our thoughts and beliefs and our emotions affect our physical DNA, and how we can turn things on and turn things off of that DNA, depending upon what we have in our spiritual DNA. So when we can transform that and release, not only just was it transforming is the message that came through, but it was actually replacing, maybe I would say, like distorted DNA that we're carrying with us on a spiritual level, so that we can really, have a different perspective, make different choices, stand in a different place, have a different understanding of ourselves and our life experience, and of course, create something different. It just really totally blew me away. The other thing that she told me was that it actually kind of created like a little vacuum that pulled in this high vibration spiritual
Mm-hmm.
energy. So it continued to work even after the session, which totally makes sense how it's really been kind of revamping you, Christine.
Yeah, and that was the perfect, I guess, metaphor, the little vacuum, because it really feels like I've been this magnet for these new awarenesses and realizations and experiences and energies in my body that were coming in more solidly and more easily, because I'm always, updating and upgrading in different ways. But these were things that were sort of spontaneously happening in a much faster way than usually happens for me. So I can speak to the power of that. And it totally makes sense, because when you change those deep patterns, and DNA is one of those really deep patterns in our body, and apparently also, our psyche, when the way that she was talking about it, then you change everything. And so, of course, you're going to start magnetizing and bringing in completely different things, because you're actually operating in a completely different way.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm quite blown away by it, really.
So I know, Linda, that you also do a lot of other kinds of healing besides the spiritual DNA work. And one of them is with water. So can you explain a little bit about the water healing for us? Because I think we're going to launch in and do some of that for all of us.
Well, it is, first of all, great fun, and I'm happy to share it. When I work with the water, it's called living waters. And it is because when I'm working with it with energy, it actually becomes a structured specifically for the person who will be drinking it. And it's totally amazing because it works on video, it works over the phone, it works on replay if you're rewatching videos. It's just mind-boggling, really, to think that it's possible. It's so not a linear way of thinking about how to change things. But of course, we know in the energy world, there's no such thing as time and space, and it isn't a linear process.
And we're mostly water. So working with water is perfect because our bodies are water.
Exactly. I use the diamond ray to restructure water, and that is a gift that was given to me by Spirit. I can't remember if it's 3 years ago or 4 years ago, but I remember having a, um, a gift of a reading. I won a reading from someone in Sedona who didn't even talk to me. She just emailed me this beautiful, beautiful reading and told me that I carried this diamond ray energy. And then I received a spirit guide portrait from an Australian psychic artist that actually drew that energy in my
Wow.
field. And it was exactly at the same time. So it was totally amazing. So I just started channeling it, and I worked with it probably about 6 months before I heard the words, "Why don't you remolecularize water?" And I was in my kitchen. I was like, what? I was like, who said that? I don't know how to do that. And there's no such word as remolecularize. And then I walked over to my kitchen faucet, got a glass of water, and poof, I knew how to do it.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing.
Great. And so you are going to work with us with this. So is there things that people would need before we start this, like water?
Well, absolutely. You're going to want to have something that you can drink so that you can taste the difference and also consume this beautiful high vibration spiritual energy. So you can use water, you can use coffee, you can use tea, you can use soup. I've even done it on an orange and it worked.
Wow.
And anything that has water content.
Okay. Well, that's perfect. So if you don't have your water, pause this and go run and get your water. And do we need to do, well, you're probably going to do some things before we get to the actual water aspect of it, but do we need to be like holding our water? Do we
No,
need to be
no,
doing
no.
anything or just have it close by and the intention that that's the water that we're working
Yes,
with? Okay.
that's really all. You don't have to hold it at all. It works on the replay. Just, have it. And this is your intention that your water or beverage is going to receive the energy, and it will be so.
Okay. All right.
So,
So,
the other thing I would say is when I started working with this energy and then offering it to my clients, I would do it with my clients all the time, whether they came for hypnosis or an emotional alchemy session, whatever they came, because it was just like magic to me,
mhm.
and and it was beneficial for them. It always seemed to put them in a really peaceful place. When I offer these readings, it's not really readings, when I offer these healings now, I also channel the diamond ray directly to the person because, like you say, we're mostly water, 70% water, and this beautiful, delicious energy also comes into our own self. And when I received the message to structure water, the information came through that it's actually the most effective way to get the energy on a physical level because we're consuming it. We're
That makes
consuming
sense.
it. It doesn't have to go through all the layers
Hmm.
of the energy bodies to be in the physical body. So, and I just encourage everyone to really have an open mind and to have that sense of exploration.
Yeah.
And let's see what kind of magic we can create today.
Okay, and you were gonna like draw an angel card to give us a direction in what direction we were gonna go with our energy healing today, and I'm excited to see what card you draw.
That's it, exactly, because I typically put an intent in as I'm channeling the diamond rays. So I have chosen, I've chosen a very interesting angel card. Yes.
Isn't that always the way though?
I have chosen the angel of education,
Oh
which
wow.
I suppose for people that are not used to working with energy or
Mm-hmm.
for having such an open mind, that perhaps this demonstration will be a little bit of an education for them. So, how can we focus that into the water? So, let's just intend that our water or our coffee or our tea will bring to us the awareness that we need in the moment, that it will educate us on what we need to know right now. How does that sound?
Sounds good. There seems like there's one other aspect. I'm trying to see if I can feel into it.
Well, I guess I would also say that it's an education of how energy can shift reality or concrete three-dimensional structure.
Yep, and then the thing that seemed to be coming in was that education is not always, we think about education as using our cognitive mind to learn something to bring it into our cognitive mind. But education at the energy level is often bringing us that inner knowing, that deeper awareness versus something that we learn like we would in a classroom. It's a different kind of integration to me
Oh,
than
totally.
what you would learn, like learning something to know it, to be able to put it back on a test versus learning something because you're beginning to embody it as a truth.
Yes, very different. And I would be very surprised if you got a cognitive knowing, but I'm willing to be surprised.
Well, yeah, and I just wanted to offer that out so that people would look at this as a more of a spectrum than just that level of education.
Now, I'm totally happy to choose a different angel card if you prefer.
No, this is fine. I go with where the cards are. I think it's a great card, particularly if we do this at other times, that people have an understanding of how this works, because this is so new for so many people that it really is an education on how energy can work, and having it coming in as a physical thing is new even for a lot of people who are used to energy. So
Well,
I think education's perfect.
it was definitely an education for me stepping into this world as I did it. So I'm sure it's divinely perfect, however
Yes.
it
Oh, it
shows up.
is. Yes.
So, what I would suggest everyone do is just to take a taste of whatever beverage they've brought and just be very aware of things like the taste, the texture, the feeling of the beverage. It's our kind of base test here. And well, I'll just be quiet for a moment as I tap into the energy. So it's actually really, really, really interesting. It was so interesting because the second I started, it was the awareness coming in that the education was about teaching people that energy is real,
Mm-hmm.
that it can seem like magic, but like magic is real. This kind of magic is real, that it's kind of very natural and very possible to shift things that our logical mind maybe can't quite conceive of, let's say. And so as it was working, it was balancing the brain, right, left, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And quite a bit of energy as well in through the jaw. And then it moved into the third eye. And it was almost like the energy body kind of split open. So this big ball of light was lit up in the third eye to allow us to perceive differently than
Interesting.
what we've been used to or how we've been programmed or what we've allowed for ourselves. So that is the energy that is in the water or coffee or tea. And I would have everyone go ahead and have a taste now.
Well, for mine tastes much smoother than it did.
Yeah, mine does too. I've
And
had
it's more ginger and less peppermint. Mine's tea.
I've had many people tell me many different things, from it being sweeter, or it feels like it holds light, or it
Mm.
feels the density changed. For some people, heavier, lighter. It's different for every person. And we must remember that it is intelligent energy
Mm-hmm.
and it gives you what you need. I've actually done people at the same time who've traded their water and could tell which was theirs and which was not theirs.
Wow, that's interesting.
It gets even more magical than that, Christine, because when I was in my experimental phase, I did a jug of water with some people in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
and I energized the water. They poured water in their own glasses, tasted their water, tasted the other person's water, and it was different from the
Oh,
same cup.
wow. So it's just, yeah, the water itself as it comes to the person would be different, or you experience the same water differently, or something like that.
Exactly. And I've had a few people, not many, but a few very energy sensitive people tell me that when I channel the energy into the water, that they could feel the energy going in their mouth, down their throat, into the water that they swallowed as the first taste test.
Oh, interesting, because I could feel the energy as it was coming in, but I didn't notice that with when as I was drinking the water. But it was very powerful energy, and I did want to say something about energy that, we're talking about it being real. That everybody's had the experience of walking into a room and feeling what's happening in that room. Like, you can feel if somebody just had a fight. You could feel tension. You can feel, you walk in and it feels brighter and lighter. Like, that's a experience that we've all had, and we talk about it differently than energy, but it's that kind of a thing, and we tend to think of it then as something that we just experience what's actually happening, versus something that's happening within us that we can change to have a different experience. But we've all, we're basically energy beings, and we operate in energy. We just have not been taught that, so it's kind of atrophied. But it's a very exciting way of working in the world, and this is a really nice place to start educating yourself if this is your first, foray into energy, by listening to this again and again and drinking your water and allowing that education to unfold in you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Nell, it's a really appropriate angel card that we picked.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always perfect. Like, that's the thing. When it comes to things with this preconception, and then it turns it differently, and just following that intelligence and the wisdom
Well,
of what is coming up, and knowing that there's some perfection in that.
it's true. It's so easy for the conscious mind or the
Mm-hmm.
logical thinking mind to kind of get in the way. And I don't even know how to say it, but it would have been so easily available to us today to say, oh, no, we don't like that angel. Let's pick another angel. And we get a different angel. Whereas this was a perfect, perfect angel.
It was the perfect angel. And I know I found for me that I didn't realize I had an expectation, and then something happens and I realized, well, that wasn't what I really wanted. Like, I wanted something, I had this idea of what something should be, and what was ended up being perfect. But my idea of what something should be is often, not on. But every time I open to how things have turned out, and I allow that to flow and to be and to go with that, it's always worked out wonderfully. It's only when I try to control it then and say, no, no, different card, different experience, then it doesn't quite have the magic that it does if I allow things to flow.
Yeah. So we all have more growth in trust, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one thing I would say to anyone that is listening, that if they didn't notice a taste in the water, to try it with coffee or tea, because it is a more pronounced difference.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring a alkalinized water, let's say, which is already kind of has that smooth, silky taste, that's typically how people describe the shift in the water. And I've actually had people who've done it with chlorinated water, that after about 5 minutes, because the energy keeps working,
Mm-hmm.
after about 5 minutes, the chlorine taste totally goes away.
Wow.
So it's try it again if you don't notice it, and use something that would be a more pronounced change for you, like coffee or tea, because it will totally take the bitterness away, and it's just so smooth and delicious.
Well, and that brings up something else on this that relates to both energy and this water, is that energy is often subtle. And learning to pay attention to energy is how you begin to notice how powerful it is, but it's often subtle. And so just like a taste in a water may be subtle at first, if you're not really focused on what something tastes like, it's the same kind of metaphor with energy, that being really attuned to just the little differences in energy and the little differences in the water, as opposed to expecting something to be radically different. Like you go from drinking water to drinking like Kool-Aid, where it's this huge shift and change. It's those little small shifts that make up a big difference over time. And so bringing that into the metaphor of the water as well, that to be open to just a small shift and change. Like mine definitely tastes smoother and it's a little bit different. I noticed the tang of the ginger in a different part of my mouth versus it going from tasting like ginger peppermint tea to tasting like oolong tea, which would be, a huge change and a little bit jarring, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's a very good exercise to help us to learn how to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to our internal responses and the information that our senses are bringing us. And I agree with you. I think that it will develop people's intuitive ability as they start to kind of hone that skill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because intuition and energy, they can get drowned out really easily by the noise of our cognitive thinking, or our intellectual mind, or our chattering brain, or all different kinds of levels of brain activity. And it is really that tuning in, that paying attention, that helps us to begin to let go of listening to those voices and begin to listen to those voices of our deeper intuition, our deeper wisdom, and those energies that are always flowing, but maybe not always apparent.
Well said, Christine.
All right. So thank you very much for this, Linda. This has been a real treat. This is not where we were going to go today at all, just so that people know. But hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime and choose a different card and see what the angels have to say then. So thank you so much for gifting us with this water adventure today.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Christine. I'd also like to invite the listeners to come and visit my YouTube channel. I have a few videos up on different focuses that have water healing. There's some other videos there as well, but if you like the water healing, they're there on YouTube. You can just listen as often as you want.
And so how else can people reach you? I know you've got your YouTube channel, and that is also on our conversationsfromtheedge.net page, but what is your YouTube channel called, and how else can people reach you if they're just, going right straight to your stuff?
Yeah, sure. My YouTube channel is called Thought Change, and that is one word. My website is thoughtchange.com, and you will find me on Facebook as well as Thought Change. I also have a podcast called Exploring the Mystical Side of Life, and I invite everyone to come and have a listen. We have some really interesting guests and some very interesting topics there as well.
This is your host, Christine Madera. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation from the edge of consciousness. You can find all our conversations at conversationsfromtheedge.net. You'll also find links to schedule a private conversation with me or any of my friends, as well as tools to help you expand your own consciousness and explore what's possible for you outside the boundaries of your current perceptions. Feel free to use this podcast to start your own conversation by sharing it with friends, on social media, in your blog, or even in your own podcast. And as always, live the adventure of pushing your own edge. It's the most amazing adventure there is.